business skills, right? I am struggling with that right now. I'm trying to see how I can sell my profile better out there with what I have and what else I can do to add feather into my cap, you know. So a few examples maybe from your own personal life or from that of the rest of the panelists, especially you too, Kashif, since you mentioned about the innovation. Very interested. Thank you, and thanks a lot for this.
So I would say focus on helping others. Focus on understanding what the organization's real problems are. Keep aside your individual needs and look at what the organizational needs are and where you can apply those skills, that where there are gaps. I think you have, as all of them have mentioned, there are tremendous amount of opportunities if you can get out of your comfort zone. You have to work outside your comfort zone every day. Every day, that's where you'll find opportunities. And that's how I have grown. I have looked at where are the problems and where can I help, and being proactive. And inshallah, after the session, we'll have a chat. I was talking to your husband as well. So we'll discuss in more detail about your specific issue.
It seems like you know her. Did you have a question as well?
It's an excellent question, and I think many times we have noticed that people in technology career, they have to make, again, a choice at some point in their career. Whether, and this is something that confuses a lot of people, because it also confused me when I was growing in my technology career, is to really stay technical or really transition into a pure management career. So what happens is that traditionally those who are good technologists, you know, they get promoted and all of a sudden they become managers. Whether they are ready for a management career or not, they are now managing people and making decisions. And that's where you would find people really struggling, because all of a sudden they are out of their comfort zone. They're doing things that they're really not professionally trained for. They don't have the lingo, they don't have the vocabulary, they don't have the right skill set. So, citing an example from my own career, for example, when I came from a traditional engineering background, my undergraduate and master's, you know, were both in engineering. And I realized that as I was growing in my technology career, I was spending more time with VP sales and VP, you know, finance, and then, you know, head of sales, flying with them. And then I kind of realized that I was really lacking the pure understanding of how they, you know, communicate about business. And then I assessed my own career and I realized that I needed to have that kind of perspective. So I went back to the business school for my executive MBA. These are some of the things that perhaps at mid-career technologists, if they are passionate about, you know, understanding business and playing a critical part in growing business and really pursue a management career, might also want to focus, might also want to explore that. It gives you tremendous confidence, it gives you the tools, at least credentials, but then you will still have to own the career. A degree is just a degree, right? It will not be a ticket to success. It will just add to credentials, but then you will have to do what these panelists have already discussed, is to really help others. Raise your hand, volunteer yourself. There will be opportunities out there. People, just because simply people don't raise their hands, working with the head of innovation who reports to the CEO at Pfizer was simply a matter of raising hand. I just raised my hand and I said I wanted to play that client partner role. And next thing I ended up, you know, sitting with in New York City with the global head of innovation. Sometimes little things can really test you, because then you'll be coming out of your comfort zone, and you'll be, if you're not prepared, it will be risky. But you have to take some calculated risk. So raise your hands, ask for exciting, challenging assignments which can help you connect with other people within the organization. And then this will help you understand other challenges outside your area, and this will help you understand your company. And then within a year, 2 years, 3 years, you will realize that people are talking about you, or you learn more, you understand more about your own organization than the next PMO coordinator or project manager.
So, one probably on the lighter side, when I interview candidates, I ask them, so who do you work for? They know their manager name, right? And I said, oh, what about the next guy? Occasionally they tend to answer. Then I said, okay, what about the guy next to that person? It's like they just draw a blank, right? So I'll tell you the one thing that will absolutely not work in your favor. Going to work, sitting in a cubicle, if you're a developer, if you're whoever, right, doing your work, bam, and you're out, right? Nobody knows whether you even exist or not. You just do your work and you go home, right? And then year end comes and you're like, wait a second, what happened? I'm supposed to be one of the best guys who's developing. Why am I being rated whatever, right? That absolutely is a disastrous situation for you to be in. And if you don't change that, what that means is you need to ask yourself, if I'm too comfortable in this role, time for a change. Time for extending, raising your hand, seeking a different opportunity, going out of that comfort zone. That's the only way I think that you'll continue to expand your skill set, right? And be able to ready to take new challenges. So the one thing, I support about 15 to 20,000 developers. That's the one thing I run into with development organizations constantly. You have no idea who they are. They do beautiful work. And by the time they're like, okay, nobody knows who I am besides my immediate manager, right? So, and then I think about career aspirations. Well, hello, right? Nobody knows you. That's the fundamental problem too. Lack of visibility kills career aspirations, plain and simple.
Thank you. So I guess what we're hearing here is it was a great question, right? That organizational IQ really matters, right? It's not just what you're doing, right? You got to know who you're working for, what business is your business in, right? Communication skills, other soft skills that, a lot of at least I've seen whenever I interact with a technologist, they know best what SQL is or, whatever the databases out there are, right? And half of that just goes beyond me. And I'm like, hold on a second, what is English for me, please, right? And that is something that a pure technologist always challenges, always challenged. No matter what, even if you go to almost the C-suite, it's very difficult. And the people who make it to the C-suite, and Armagam, you might agree to that, is they have to talk the business language. It's not about what they know, right? And that's the other thing. You have to find a balance between what you do and how you do it. But if I look around at the rounds of layoffs that go through in our organization, it's not about what people know. It's about the people who are no longer with the companies are the people on how they do it. All right, so let's go to the next one.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. My name is Kewan Rahim. I work as head of infrastructure and IT operations for Rolex Watch USA. I've been with the company a long time. My question is really around LinkedIn. Right, so we have had, a few great questions here. Vendor management, adding feathers to the cap. I would like to get a view from the panelists on how do you guys see LinkedIn? Like, I'll give you an example. I'm on LinkedIn. I don't trust it fully. My profile is not up to date, and it's not going to be up to date because the kind of industry I'm in.
There is a camera in the back of the...
Okay. Thank you, brother.
That's your statement to trust them.
All right. So, I would like to get a viewpoint from the panelists, all of them. What do they think about LinkedIn, and how do one use it to maximize the career advancement and development?
So before we get to the responses here, I think you're going to be one of the most popular attendees. There will be people lining up outside, how do I get a Rolex discount?
Okay, excellent question. So let me just give you my personal experience with LinkedIn. For the last 18 years, I have always been recruited out of LinkedIn when I was not looking. So that's a plain and simple answer. It's a powerful tool if you know the right people and the right connections, and if you're doing the right things. And I don't mean make LinkedIn into a Facebook and every 5 minutes update your status on it. I mean just doing the right things, talk about the project, talk about other things. It can be a very powerful tool, and contribute, help people out. I think that goes extremely far. There's a lot of people that would follow and do other things. It goes on to any other social media as well. But I'd say, based upon personal experience and people I know, and I trust LinkedIn far more when I am doing senior level recruiting, like VP and SVP level recruiting. I would trust LinkedIn far more than I would trust another recruiter who's getting something out there.
Wow.
So I know when I was growing up, right, I was trying to figure out how do I write a resume, right? And there were people out there who would provide their services to write a resume, right? So in this day and age with LinkedIn, right, and as I go through, when I get LinkedIn invites, one, I don't accept everybody's invite, right? I gotta know a person. But then I look at this summary, right, of who are you? And I think that's what's important. You have to be able to write a summary that has those keywords that shows and represents your interests, right? So to that point, right, what do you guys look at when we talk about LinkedIn?
I think our LinkedIn is a great tool, but I would rather think in a broader professional networking perspective. There's a book from Keith Ferrazzi. The title is Never Eat Alone. It's an excellent book. Think about it. He talked about various social networking sites and how you can use those tools to connect. But at the end of the day, it's the human connection. It's a one-on-one connection that you actually build with the other individual. And don't undermine the importance of that connection. And you will feel that people have thousands and hundreds of LinkedIn connections. For some, they could be huge not because they're simply relying on LinkedIn, because these people are socially active. They're meeting people, shaking hands, helping others, solving others' issues, and really building their network through the genuine human connection. On top of it, they have LinkedIn, and LinkedIn will really work great for them. But those who are passive in social connections and just simply are adding LinkedIn connections, the LinkedIn may not be really effective for those people. I still think it will be up to you how to make it more effective, and I still think that the old traditional approach of reaching out, having a cup of coffee, and really sharing a few ideas at a Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts will go a long way. But I consider LinkedIn as a great tool. It will give you insight about at least people's credentials and what others are perhaps talking about that person. It is all helpful. Recruiters wouldn't really, the help from recruiter cannot be underestimated. I mean, recruiters will reach out to you. So it's a great tool of not only connecting with others, but also perhaps get a next opportunity when you are looking for it. But in general, I think we should think about professional networking as a broader umbrella and LinkedIn as just one key aspect of it.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We have like 5, maybe 10-minute stops for this panel, right? So how many people in the room have a LinkedIn profile? Raise your hands. And how many of you think it's really an impressive profile? Yeah, that's an excellent point, right? That we should use this as a forum to get to know each other and not just names of faces. Get connected on LinkedIn.
Sorry, brother, just one. I'm probably going to say something, I guess, out of the norm. Right? So, to me, I must be doing something wrong because LinkedIn for me has not worked. The one thing that I would tell you is LinkedIn helps when recruiters are looking for like keywords, right? That helps them scan it. So that definitely is a plus. But if I look at my work slate and the way I split my time, 30 to 40% of my time actually goes in networking, all right? So you can call me like, I'm not probably doing work, but to me, that's part of my work. So I have I have a global remit. I'm in different locations, meeting people in person, right? So I would tell you one thing, LinkedIn, yes, it gets you maybe to stand out for a very short bit. That window is there, right? And it helps you. But the next step, and especially if you're hiring senior leaders in the team, change agents, right? I would absolutely not hire somebody just on LinkedIn. I need somebody to vouch for that individual who I have seen or I trust, and he or she can say that this individual can deliver results. That's probably one way of looking at it. But I would say spend time, like nothing hurts for you to go out, reach to one of your tech management folks and say, listen, I want to schedule 30 minutes on your calendar. I'll introduce myself, what I do in your organization and how I contribute and provide value. But the other thing is use that as either a mentoring opportunity, right? Or to talk about the skills that you bring to the table. Even if that individual listens to you for 30 minutes or maybe 5 minutes, and the rest of it is all gibberish to that individual, but then it will leave a mark on that person that you actually made an effort, you are trying to actually speak about how you can add value and so on.
The only thing I would add on LinkedIn is that, so I think it depends on how you use it. So I think definitely it's one of those things where everyone's got to have one. It's no different than the old days of having a resume. So you have an executive summary, you'll have your content. You have to take it with a grain of salt. Everyone's going to go through the interview process. So I think you want to have the right words there for the search, and so that the recruiters can pick you up. But I'll tell you again, on the recruiting side, if you've got lots of open positions, and if I have a choice to hire someone through a recruiter, where I'm going to pay him $25,000 to $50,000 per search, and if I have 40, 50 positions open in my department, that's a lot of money, and I have to drive those costs down. I would rather go to people within my own organization and through their LinkedIn network. So the first thing I ask them to do, and we create an internal referral fee, and that might be $5,000 or $10,000, so it cuts my budget in half there. And so they will post and say, I have an opening in the department. They'll get the referral fee. And before they come in, because then everyone wants the referral fee, they'll say, are you going to vouch for the guy? And so just like any passive candidates, I mean, your best candidates are the ones who are not looking for a job, usually. And they're in a really good spot in their current organization, and those are the ones you want. And that happens. So I think from my side, I don't even look at the content on the LinkedIn profile. I'll just ask my team and say, look, everyone posted out, see who comes in, and I'd rather. And we actually follow metrics on how many positions we filled in my organization from internal referrals versus recruiters and which staffing agencies and how much we've spent. And we have senior management objectives of driving down those recruiting costs while we have turnover. So.
Okay, so let's do one last question, right? Mujiba, you pick.
Assalamu alaikum everyone. My name is Zahur Ansari. I work for BNY Mellon as an IT project manager for one of their business process outsourcing for investment institutional client, Bridgewater. I don't know if you guys know this, one of the largest fund in the world. I have a question. I've sort of transitioned from business to not more so IT, but in the middle as an advisor or SME. So my question now is, I don't want to work for a lot of colleagues from like a big four to join. I don't want to do that. As an independent niche market consultant, I have done some research on big companies have their preferred vendors list, right? So how do I get bypass that to see if I can use, there are some companies that have diversity program. How can I utilize that if there's a way to get to the business or IT together and to see if I can pull out those very complicated skills that they're looking for. For example, in my role, they had 4 or 5 big vendors. Unfortunately, none of them had the quality set that they needed. Finally, I was brought in from one of the vendors. So I have a very capital market driven expertise I have, which I can utilize from all investment banks. So I want to know from you guys, people who are working with the vendors, how do we get by the preferred vendor list, or how do I go and talk to some of the business or IT guys in terms of trying to create some business opportunity for myself and my company?
So I'll tell you one thing right off the bat, right? So for large companies, and maybe just Citibank is probably more complex than a typical organization, you cannot get a contract without being on the vendor list. So you have to go through the rigor of that. However, Your question is, how do you reach the actual business and technology folks? I would say one of the opportunities is around conferences and these seminars that go on where product showcasing happens. Those are avenues where you can liaise directly without going through all that, right? Because I think there's one element of, if it's a very niche skill that you're offering, it might be more to your advantage to speak directly to these individuals, and this happens in these forums, as opposed to going the traditional vendor route, because I think you'll get bogged down into a lot of procedural things. However, you will still probably have to go through one of the preferred vendors.
I would say network. That is the key. I'm sure within your network you will come across individuals who have some connection somewhere, right? And on a lighter note, I'll say LinkedIn, but that won't work as much as personal network works.
I would also say, depending on the company you're trying to penetrate, take a look at how diversified, if you can, find out how diversified their vendor list is, because a lot of it depends on the procurement strategy that's out there. So, for example, if a procurement department is led by someone, their chief procurement officer is a very strong leader in terms of consolidate, because you're going to get volume discounts. So the goal should be you have fewer vendors, because you're going to get larger. So it's that whole best of breed versus having volume business. And you can, if you have if their vendor strategy is fewer vendors, and it'll become very difficult to penetrate that, right? To get onto that preferred vendor list. So you're better off using a strategy to be a subcontractor with someone who's already on the list, just in terms of investment of time and return. But if you go to a company that's pretty lax about it, and they really haven't really focused on that area of improvement, then the networking and the chances of you being able to penetrate that are much higher. You just need to know someone, and through networking you find your way in. But your barriers of entry are much smaller. Nobody's watching it. Nobody's keeping key metrics and watching it at an executive. And if they're not watching it at the board level, your chances of penetration are higher. Right? And the way you look at it is look at how broad the landscape is. It's harder to do at the bigger firms because they just deal with so many vendors. But if you're dealing with mid-market firms, I would say look at how many vendors are actually playing there.
But you know, they have a ME program. Some of the companies have ME minorities, that's why they that's another type of thing.
Much easier to do in public sector. In the private sector, it's still there, it's beginning to become a member. But public sector, it's like you win the business, even if the cost is the same, if you're a diversity on business.
So I know that we ran out of time on the first panel, but since both the panels topics are kind of related, right? So it's not that I'm not going to have you ask questions. We'll have more panelists here as well. You can ask the questions there as well. I'm sorry, other people have their hands. All right, so why don't you go ahead? 30 seconds. Go ahead.
At all at the director level, and I think this question also kind of relevant to everybody.
What's your question, brother? Thank you.
I'm sure you've had this conversation so many times. How would you conduct a successful salary increase discussion with your manager? You've had this for yourself so many times, that's why you're at this level, and I'm sure your employee have this. Some of them are successful, some of them are not, so can you help us out?
Do you really ever ask for an increase? I've never asked for an increase ever.
Brother, are you saying that you are not satisfied with 2.5% raise? It's an excellent question because, you know, again, I would like to relate this question with the first comment that I made. If you have the ability to create a unique value-adding proposition, and when I say unique value-adding proposition is that if you could do something, you know, that no one else, or at least majority, can do it, and if you could do it with the best of your capability, then you will always have a chance to be, you know, rated higher, and then have a meaningful conversation with your manager. Typically, you know, people have, you know, because we're all engaged in those kind of conversations with the people that we manage, their approach is, okay, I haven't got any decent raise for last 3 years. You know, I should get more raise. So instead of asking for a raise on your typical work year, I think going back is that you raise your hand for some exciting, challenging assignments, show some value, show that you are able to work in teams. You can add value not only in your group but other groups. Show that you can understand the business complexities or business challenges, and you can also help identify the solution. Show that you are part of the solution all the time instead of causing a problem for the management. So typically, this also requires a huge deal of softer skills, which I think in technology career we see lacking a lot of time. Technologists usually don't that much focus on the softer skills, the communication skills, how you brand yourself, how you approach, how do you enunciate your success stories. So without telling much, you still make people aware about your contributions. These are some of the things that you probably have to plan before you get to that conversation level. Because at that point, there will be at least 3-4 different other people talking about you to your manager before you even get engaged with that conversation. So for example, if somebody is if I am getting positive feedback from 4 or 5 different of my peers about a specific employee, how great he is, how great he works in team, how he is always raising hand, positive, attitude, and is always willing to provide some solution or help others or help my team. I'm going to start really feeling good about that employee, because it's not just he's adding great value in my team, but he's also getting great feedback from others. And by the time we're having this conversation, most likely that individual will get above average raise anyways, in most cases. I hope others will.
One more panelist.
I completely agree everything that he said. Just one thing I would say is every time I have that conversation, I will tell my manager that, if you're looking at my job title and my job responsibilities, I'm severely overpaid. If you look at the value that I bring to the organization, I'm severely underpaid. And from that point on, the manager is on the defensive and the conversation takes care of itself.
Because this is a salary question, let me take 30 seconds. Salary negotiation is a process. It does not happen, go knock a door and say, increase my salary. It doesn't work that way. We at Deloitte take talent management and employee satisfaction extremely seriously, right? So as part of that, you have to understand what is the performance management system that is put in place for your organization. And have you been having accurate and actual regular conversations with your manager on a periodic basis as to what your goals are and how you're accomplishing them or exceeding those goals? Salary will come to you accordingly. There's no magic formula where you will get more money than somebody else, because even at an HR level, there are bands and there are salary boundaries that are capped at the industry level. So you will, to the initial point of 2.5%, yes, if the industry says that your job role and your title and your experience demands only that much increase, you will get only that much. But if you're looking for a huge jump and you're dissatisfied with your job, you should start looking outside.
So I was wondering why this question was never asked. I mean, we spent so much time here. The one thing is, so I'll probably rattle off mistakes, right? What not to do. So mistake number 1, having this conversation year end. So you should probably then have your plan B ready, which is update your resume and be ready to look for a different job, right? You cannot march into your manager's office and basically say, listen, I need 30% increase in my salary because I do blah, 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 right? If that's actually a conversation, then you need to ask yourself, does the manager not know what you do? If he's your direct manager, I'm assuming he or she understands what you've been doing for the entire year. So this conversation needs to be a throughout the year type of dialogue. Not necessarily every coffee you have with them, like, I'm going to increase my salary, right? The second thing is, think about the compensation process in your company, because it's not just your manager who's making these decisions. There are other people around his peers and his management. So when you think about budget pools, when you think about